Let's get right to the brain trust. Peter Suderman, senior editor, Reason Magazine, Perry Bacon Jr., MSNBC contributor, also political editor for the Grio. And Christine Niedermeier runs Straight Scoop Politics blog. Pete, let me start with you, sir. President Obama, of course, he condemned the government action in Egypt for Martha's Vineyard last week. He also added that we will not be participating in those upcoming joint military exercises with Egypt. But what real power, Peter, does President Obama have to change what's happening on the ground in Egypt?
President Obama does not have real direct power to change what's happening on the ground in Egypt, as you say, but what he does have the power to do is decide how we're going to react, what the American response is going to be. And right now, America gives about $1.5 billion a year in aid to Cairo. 1.3 billion of that is military aid. And that's the kind of thing that Obama could be seriously rethinking and saying, you know, what are we getting for that money? Is it in our interests? Is it in the interests of the Egyptian people?
Christine, the president's hands, are they tied or are they not? Are there options that are available to the president that we have not been talking about over the past few days?
Well, Craig, Egypt is a very important ally to the United States, which is why the president is hesitating in cutting off further economic aid. Most of the military aid for this fiscal year has already been given to Egypt. There are 4 F-16s that haven't been delivered, maybe some helicopters. But Egypt is a strong strategic partner. We have flyovers over Egypt that help us maintain stability in the region. The Suez Canal access is very importantly linked to Egypt. On the other hand, I would say that, you know, coming after our experience in Russia with Snowden and Putin throwing their nose at the United States, I think there are some people that are concerned that we spent weeks trying to negotiate a deal with Egypt and prevent this bloodshed, and we weren't able to do so, and some of them are pressuring the president to consider future aid and set down groundwork for that, delivering that aid in the future.
Perry, I want to pivot here. Let's talk domestic politics now, specifically New York City stop and frisk program. The city, of course, has appealed the federal judge's ruling that found that stop and frisk is unconstitutional. New York's police commissioner, Ray Kelly, was on Meet the Press this morning, strongly defending the controversial policy. Let's listen to what he said and talk about it on the other side. Here it is.
If a program like stop and frisk is abandoned, will people die?
Well, I think, no question about it, violent crime will go up. And again, this is not a program. This is something that's integral to policing. This happens throughout America. In any police jurisdiction, you have to do it. Officers have to have the right of inquiry if they see some suspicious behavior.
Is there some happy medium, Perry, between what the city wants to do and what minority communities and civil libertarians feel infringes on their rights?
You got a political problem here and then a policy problem. The political one is Ray Kelly, Michael Bloomberg, very unpopular with a lot of the minority leaders in New York City. I don't think any solution they brought to the table would be viewed as a compromise. I think some of the mayoral candidates have talked about replacing Ray Kelly. I think that would be necessary to really get some kind of compromise where both sides agree on. Then you have the policy problem. Ultimately, I think any policy that minority leaders will like will be one where 80% of people currently targeted by this program are minorities. As long as the number is going to be that high, you're always going to have a political problem there and a policy problem as well where people are going to be concerned by it until whatever compromise has to reach has to be something where the minority community doesn't feel like they're targeted, or you're not going to have a compromise people like.
Christian, one solution suggested by the judge when she overturned stop and frisk is for police officers to wear this body camera, so to speak, that would record any interaction between police and between some of the people that they are stopping and frisking. Is that something that would help soothe the concerns that many folks have about this particular program?
Well, you know, I noticed, Craig, that this morning Ray Kelly said that would be a detriment and police wouldn't be able to do that. But, you know, I think that's a really weak excuse because police officers carry cameras when they do basic traffic stops in many states across the country, and they turn them on when they have engaged someone. And so I think that would be a step. Importantly as well, I think her decision says it's unconstitutional as it is now. That you need to implement reforms. She's not saying that you can't have stop and frisk, but when you have an instance here where you have 90% of the stops that do not result in an arrest or a warrant. And you have many police officers, in fact, the most common excuse they give for stopping someone is that someone had furtive activity. Oh, they were changing the direction they were moving, or they had their hand in their pocket. Well, 50% of the people are frisked, and in only 1.5% of those cases is a gun or other weapon found. So clearly this program has gone broader and been implemented broader than it needs to be to protect ourselves.
Peter, I want to ask you about something else that Mayor Bloomberg did on Friday, announced on Friday. He's added new fuel to the fire. He was asked about crime and security, specifically in New York City's public housing projects. And this is what the mayor said about that. Take a listen.
The people that live there, most of them, want more police protection. They want more people. If you have strangers walking in the halls of your apartment building, don't you want somebody to stop and say, who are you? Why are you here? What we really should have is fingerprinting to get in.
Mayor Bloomberg now proposing fingerprinting 5% of New York City's population. That's more than 620,000 people. Peter, is Mayor Bloomberg, is he disconnected or is he indifferent?
Well, I think, I mean, maybe he's both. With Mayor Bloomberg, you know, he really seems to think that the best solution to any problem is for the New York government and for him to come in and order some sort of incredibly invasive action. And whether that's the fingerprinting, you know, he says people want more policing in unsafe environments, and that's probably true, but they don't look for things, they're not looking for invasive policing. They're looking for the kind of policing that works. Hotspot policing, things like that. The kind of policing where the policemen are neighbors, you know, part of the neighborhood, part of the community, and that's not what he's saying here. That what he's proposing is in fact incredibly invasive and something that people are going to react negatively to. You said already that minorities have a negative opinion of Mayor Bloomberg, and this is the you know, one of the reasons why.
I guess, and also when you're not running for re-election, it sort of makes it easy too. Brain Trust, Peter Suderman, Barry Bacon Jr., Christine Niedermeier. Brain Trust is going to come back a little bit later in the hour.